Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate your time, especially because I'm sure you're all busy. I'll try to be concise. I'm Luke, and I'm a member of the Woodpecker Outbound team, where we deal with prospecting challenges on a daily basis. I have done my fair share of prospecting, so I'll be discussing the methods we use to do so. The goal of this webinar is to show you how to build your own prospect lists in an easy and cost-efficient way. Today's webinar will focus on prospecting online. I'll describe how to decide who to target and how to find the contact details you need for an outbound campaign. The reason we organized this webinar is because we did our own research on the ideal customer profile not that long ago. We spoke with our best clients and asked them what we helped them with and why they decided to stay with us. As a result, we learned a lot about their outbound processes, and as you can see on this chart, almost 40% of our clients said that prospecting is the most difficult part of their outbound process. And if you're wondering what's in the other section, some people had problems with following up to emails, overall strategy, personalization, or handling responses. Now, before you just start prospecting, it is important for you to decide who to contact. So I'll explain how to define your ICP. When you think of your ideal target group, it is essential to research both the market and the decision makers. Ask yourself a few questions, such as who is your best client? Who pays you the most? Who's going to stick around the longest? Why do you like working with them best? What country are they from? What language do they speak? Asking yourself what language they speak is important because if they speak a different language, how do you contact them? If they speak English, you need to speak English. If they don't speak English, you need to hire someone to speak with them in their own language. So now that you've established our ideal target group, go a little deeper. What's the position of the person who is paying for your services? Are they the CEO, the CMO, or maybe the head of sales? Also, who benefits the most from your services? Who's that person, or is it a team that is actually using your solution? Think also of some title equivalents so you don't limit your research. Are you reaching out to your sales director? Are you reaching out to a sales manager, or is it the head of sales? To sum things up, you're looking for someone who needs your services, won't churn after 1 month, and ideally, someone who will refer you to other companies as well. The ideal customer persona represents who you should be looking for when prospecting. Once you figure out your ICP and exactly who you want to contact, you are ready to start prospecting. Of course, the easiest way of conducting an outbound campaign is to buy an email list, write a copy, send the emails, wait for the results, and hope for the best. Now, don't get me wrong, there are companies that provide you with verified lists, and buying those lists might be a good idea, especially for narrow targets. But from our experience, it's not as efficient as gathering leads in-house. It's better for you to know who you are reaching out to and actually try to build a personal link with them. In the end, those are the people you want to become your clients, and so that you can nurture a relationship with them. Usually, good emails also aren't for sale, so you have to understand what is at stake. You don't know them, they don't know you, and you may do more harm than good because your reputation can be corrupted. Emailing random people harms your reputation and the reputation of your domain. Therefore, you may end up being recognized as a spammer because of this. HubSpot also makes an interesting point that people on purchase lists or rented lists have already received tons of emails. If you bought those lists, others have also bought those lists and emailed that list. So it's most likely those contacts are going to ignore you. Moreover, chances are a huge portion of those addresses are invalid or not verified. The deliverability of your campaigns may suffer because of this, unfortunately. Now, that's just something you need to be careful about. We also purchase lists, but only if it's cheaper than the research time we have to devote to it, and the source is verified. That is key. Now, prospecting is a manual process. It's time consuming and takes up a lot of resources, and unfortunately isn't always done properly. But trust me, quality of your list is more important than the quantity of your prospects. I cannot stress that enough. Even though that can seem obvious, lots of people don't seem to follow that rule. Quality over quantity, through and through. Now, sending 50 personalized cold emails can be more beneficial than sending 500 at bulk to the wrong people. Same goes for prospecting. Spending the same amount of time to research your ideal prospective client is usually worth it. When we were searching for people who would be interested in attending this webinar, we researched people posting questions online about prospecting, and then we reached out to those people because we knew they were having a hard time with it. On the slide is the results of that campaign, and that's why spending more time to properly research your ideal prospective client is always worth it. If you prospect yourself in-house, the biggest benefit is that you are the king of the castle and you decide what strategy works best for you. And also something to keep in mind is that when you're searching for who to prospect, it is also a good idea to contact a person that is relatively new in the company. That person may have a fresh view on the company's policy and may want to launch changes. Or you can also try to target several people from the same company or the same department at the same time. By the end, it's important for you to remember your goal is to sign and work with the company. The person you're writing to is important, and so is the channel of communication. But at the end of the day, it's the company you're targeting. The companies that aggregate companies like Clutch, Cowterra, or G2 Crowd divide businesses by their type. Using keywords on LinkedIn is also a good way to go. If you're looking only for SaaS companies or, for instance, development agencies, that's a good way to go. Or if you're interested in startups, you definitely want to visit AngelList, but you might not want that. You may want to target companies that face a clearly defined problem and not target a type of business. And that's what Quora does. We have found Quora to be a successful channel. The users join a topic or follow a question because they are generally interested in gaining knowledge or using their expertise to provide solutions for others. It's a helpful source because having a common interest that connects you to your prospects is a great way of breaking the ice. When you find a topic that interests you, for example, what are good tips for cold emailing, you can then create a list of potential prospects from the writers, commenters, and upvoters from that post. This makes things easier since you don't have to strain your brain trying to come up with a common denominator for all the contacts you're reaching out to. The part is done. When you find a topic that interests you, for example, what are some good tips for cold emailing, you can create a list of potential prospects from the writers, commenters, and upvoters from that post. This makes things easier since you don't have to strain your brain trying to come up with a common denominator for all the contacts you're reaching out to. That part is done, and that means that personalizing your emails will be much easier. When you find a writer, you can go to their profile for their name and see what other information they have there. First name, last name, and company name are most important. Moreover, people linked to other social media profiles on Quora. This is useful for looking up somebody's profile on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. A profile picture is very useful because it helps you connect to that prospect on LinkedIn so you can find them much easier. On this slide, you can see what it looks like when somebody posts a question, and on the right, you can see somebody from our company, Mary, writing a response to that question. And you can see how many people upvoted that question, and you can see the person's profile right here. When you find the writer, you can go to the profile and find their name, and we'll see what other information they have. First name, last name, and company name are the most important. Sometimes you can find a link right away to their other social media profiles. And it's also very useful to have this information to find that person on LinkedIn. Especially profile picture is actually very important because it helps you match that person to that person on LinkedIn. And here on the left side again, you can see what, once you put scroll your mouse over the person's name, or the writer's name, you can then right away see information, and it helps you find out more about your prospect. And here on the right side, you can see all the upvoters. And you can see myself there as well. And this is a very useful way for you to find many names of people who are interested in a similar topic. Now, you might be asking, how do you gather info about your target group from Quora? You can do that manually. Keep in mind that it's quality over quantity all the way. And you can create an Excel file and columns where you list people's names, first name, last name, and the company name. Or you can always put them in your CRM and use one of the tools that finds the business emails for those people. There are many useful tools for finding emails. The ones we use from this list are Find That Lead, Prospect.io, and Hunter. We also listed a few other prospecting tools that we have found useful to generate emails on this slide, but if you check out our blog on Woodpecker, Kathy composed a summary of tools for building your list yourself. The main function of these tools is to generate the emails from the data you provide, generally the first last name plus the domain. Later on, you can edit, filter, and export the list inside those tools. Some of these platforms even give you the option to make statistical reports, which is very helpful. These tools are very helpful and very useful to use for prospecting, and we would not recommend you work without them because they are a huge time saver. Now, Prospect.io is our main tool, and it is a pay-to-use tool. The cost is relatively low. It is 99 euros for 2,000 credits a month. One email is one credit. In our opinion, it's more profitable to use Prospect.io than relying on purchase lists. It creates email lists directly from LinkedIn, and the best feature is that you can launch it while visiting somebody's profile, as you can see it on the slide here. A good way to build more credibility with your prospects is to connect them with LinkedIn right away while you're building your lists. Here on this slide, you can see what it looks like when you click on the Prospect.io launcher and add prospects to your list. It's very simple to use, and it'll help you out a lot and help you save time, because this tool has all the basic functions you need to generate prospect lists, and you can even make statistical reports. When it comes to Prospect.io and find that lead, if they find the email addresses, you are 99% sure it is the right one. But we always recommend you verify those lists before you actually email anyone, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. When Prospect.io and find that lead don't find the email, our next step is to go onto the company's website and use Hunter.io. It's a great tool to use, and it is very easy to use, and it's a tool that finds the most common names and emails found on the prospect's domain. Hunter also shows you the email format the company uses. It may also come in handy if you don't know your prospect's first and last name. One of those tools should have worked. Your next step is to make sure that the address is valid. The tools we use to verify those emails are MailTester and Rapportive. Both are free to use. Rapportive is a free browser plugin that has recently changed its name to Sales Navigator Lite, but you can still find it under Rapportive in the Chrome Web Store. It is available as a Firefox add-on and as a Chrome extension. It's really easy to use because it replaces the adverts in the Gmail sidebar with useful information about your contacts. It shows a photo, bio, and links to other social media accounts like Twitter, LinkedIn, Flickr, or even Google+. All you have to do is open a draft in your Gmail and paste the email address you want to look up, and the information will come up on the right side. MailTester looks up the SMTP servers responsible for the email address and tries to establish a connection. It sends several commands almost as if the email is going to be sent. When enough information is gathered, the connection is aborted and you are presented with the results of your verification. Since our presentation is almost done, I would like to sum up some key points with some do's and don'ts. What I forgot to mention, and it seems pretty obvious, I guess, before you start using email generation tools, you can visit your prospect's website, and sometimes you can find your prospect's email in their section without any hassle. Now remember, for some do's, remember to define your ICP and find the right person. Reach them, find that email, verify it, and then you are free to use it. And some don'ts. Buying list is not always the best way to go, and we would recommend you do prospect on your own in-house. If you find a company that fits your ICP, don't give up on contacting them right away. You can always write to somebody else in the company and ask to be referred to that person to establish that connection. Also, you shouldn't generate a list of prospects that have nothing in common with each other. If they all have a common denominator, you will see much better results in your campaign. And remember, always focus over quality, not quantity. Thanks for sitting through this webinar. We'll be covering more topics in the future and in more depth, like how to write a cold email copy that will get you responses. Hopefully, you will have an opportunity to see us again soon. Thanks again, goodbye, and good luck with your email campaigns.